All right, folks, this episode of Beyond the Gates was something else. Hayley is putting on quite the show. I mean, I'm at the point now where, look, it's pretty obvious that she's faking, and nobody's going to believe Danny because she's the dramatic one. So it's sad to say, but this was I know a lot of people probably didn't like it, but it was a very heavy Ashley and Andre episode. Not to mention Danny as well, because her main plot line of the episode revolved around the bland vanilla nurse stealing her man. Yeah, so I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. I personally am a Andre and Ashley shipper, and I've made that clear several times. But the thing is, I give good details about why I feel the way I feel rather than just saying, hey, I ship these two rather than these two. No, I give you in-depth analysis. Hence why, what was it? Wasn't it the Monday or Tuesday review where I had this huge tangent on Ashley? But there you go. But in her apartment, Ashley is freaking out, leaving Naomi a voicemail about, being stuck between a Derek and an Andre. And ironically enough, the moment she's about to hang up the voicemail, that's when Andre knocks on her door. And she mentions how taking her to Paris was magical and thoughtful, but it can never happen again. And he mentions this, oh, okay, no more Paris. Well, I like a challenge. How about Rome? I know this great restaurant that can give us some Rome food that tastes just like it. We can't see each other anymore. Wait, what? And Ashley's doing the same thing she did with Derek when they were living together, and that's pretty much unloading a whole clip without really giving an explanation. Like she went off on Derek, but he had to be patient and dig, in order to figure out, Ashley, where is all this coming from? And that's because she finally reveals all the little things that, irks her. But in this entire conversation between Andre and Ashley, you can clearly see that this is her mother talking through her. So it's like, look, I know we weren't really seeing each other, but we're buds, and I'm just afraid of getting hurt. And she mentions how guys like him, have women in every port, so it's really not. And he's like, wait a minute, it's not that deep with any of the other women I've been seeing. So Ashley, she sounds like such a child. It's like, well, you ought to start making better choices. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. How do we go from this wonderful night in Paris to being on the no-fly list? And that's when she finally admits it's due to her mom. And it's like, there can never be an us. So that's when Ashley mentions how Derek is the hero type. And, my mom thinks that you're just, a player who will, I don't know, go wherever the wind takes them and, will leave me hurt and, alone. So Andre's like, well, I'm happy that you're talking to your mom about me. And then Ashley's like, wow, all the stuff I said, and that's the thing you take away. And she mentions how she thinks Andre is handsome and exciting and funny and believes in her more than anyone else. And despite all those things, you're not the kind of guy to put down roots. And he mentions how, well, that's because, I haven't found a place to plant my roots. And who knows, maybe you could be my safe space. And I ain't gonna lie, I know the Ashley or the Andre and Danny fans will not care about this, but I ain't gonna lie. Sheen, wait, is it Sheen, right? Sean, Sheen Freeman, or is it Sean Freeman? Mr. Freeman and Jen, I ain't gonna lie, they had some chemistry there. Like the heavy breathing and whatnot, the way they were looking at each other. They ended up kissing, and she's like, whoa, wait. Maybe you need to apologize to your lady friend. And he explains how, look, that other woman won't offer what I want and what I need. But what I want is something real, and maybe it might not be with you, but maybe you are the safe space. So he pretty much says that, hey, guess what? I do want to plant roots. And even if you might not be the person I'm ending up with in the long run, I do want to settle down at some point as opposed to just being out there, in the Mile High Club. So Ashley is like, whoa, whoa, wait, why are you saying all these things? Like, I didn't break you, did I? And he mentions how, no, you show me what it means to matter to someone. And he likes that. And it makes sense because when you really think about it, what is Andre to Danny than a boy toy? When does Danny call Andre? When she wants to have sex. That's not to say they haven't had some wholesome moments where no sex is involved. They're just talking and he's a confidant. But 95% of the time, it's only her calling him for sex. But he wants more than that. Now, Ashley does say that, look, I need some more time to think about what I really want. And we'll talk about it later. And he mentions how he has to go make a call. Obviously, he's going to break things off with Danny. But we shall see. Now, we go over to Bill's office, and Hayley's on the phone mentioning that she needs help and this due to an emergency. And that's when Caroline comes in and overhears. But Hayley plays it off saying, oh, I'm planning a birthday for Bill. Wow, his birthday isn't until October. Yeah, well, I just want to get an early jump because, since he's excited for being a father and whatnot, I just want to take a brief moment to celebrate my husband and whatnot. And hey, also don't worry, I forgive you, for leaving the box I tripped over. Everything is fine with the baby, because she could tell on Caroline's face she still feels bad about what happened. And that's when Caroline offers to help with the party. It's like, look, I know you don't have a family and whatnot, but you have Bill, and guess what? You're about to become a mom. And you could just tell by Hayley's face, I can hardly believe it's happening. You lying tramp. So Bill is at the house, and he's having an issue getting a ride to the airport because he's trying to make it to ATL. Because remember, he's trying to come back immediately in order to be there for the the checkup the next morning with Hayley. And he's on the phone with Tomas to make sure things are kept in order for the time he's gone to when he comes back. And that's when Naomi pops up and is like, well, have you killed anyone lately, Dad? Look, listen. Naomi, Chelsea, Danny, Nicole. I can't believe I'm vouching for Bill here, but they are all in for a rude awakening when they figure out that Bill is nothing more than an extension of their father. I mean, Nicole kind of got a taste of it, when she went off on her mom about, hiding the Martin situation from her. But they're going in on Bill, and Naomi's all self-righteous and whatnot. But I'm like, where's that smoke for Vernon? Because like Bill said, he's the fixer. And Vernon's like, well, I never meant for you to go this far. If the family knew about all the times Bill has put himself on the line, like he broke down to Vernon, it's like, you know how much of my conscience and whatnot, the weight I have on my soul, so you can go to sleep at night. There are so many things that, she just wants to jump on her father's case for because he cheated and, broke up the family. And it's just insane to me. So I really have nothing else to say about that. So she does mention how her grandparents told her about Joey and, everybody. And that's when Bill breaks down, hey, I know you have no idea what this looks like in terms of what I had to do. But that's because me and your mother raised you right. So you wouldn't have to see things from a darker lens. I know I raised you to think about, good and evil and justice and whatnot. But Bill is just speaking from experience. Like, look, little girl, when you get older and you stay in the law game like I am, you'll eventually see that things aren't simply black and white. There's going to be some gray. And obviously, Jacob is going to go through the same kind of wake-up call when he figures out his own father, who he looks up to and is a hero to him, isn't as clean cut as he thinks. So both Naomi and Jacob are going to get wake-up calls from their fathers. Just keep that in mind. And when Martin and Smitty's kids were in danger by this bigot, I didn't hesitate or make take a moment to make a second thought. Like I knew what I had to do. And that's when, well, you're the one who turned the back on our family, so why are you still, in contact with them? But again, Naomi, if you only knew the power your grandfather had over your father, you wouldn't be looking at your dad like that. You wouldn't be talking to him that way. But he says that, well, thanks to you and Chelsea, I'm always going to be connected to the family. So he justifies, what he did. And Naomi still thinks that it went way too far, but Bill just reassures her that, hey, you know what? It is what it is. But he rightfully claps back saying, like, if you think what I did was messed up and you want to cut, yourself away from me, what about Aunt Nicole? I mean, what about, Vernon and whatnot, and basically everybody else who's covering up the situation too? So Naomi had no response to that. So they changed subjects about, the baby and Hayley and whatnot. And, even though she still can't stand Hayley, she is, worried about the baby after hearing about the fall. So that's when Bill pulls out an ultrasound. And honestly, when Naomi took a look, I expected her to figure something was a bit wrong with it. All she said was like she's not sure what side is up. But yeah, it's like, I'll love my future little sibling. So from there, Naomi doesn't want to talk about it further and wishes that, oh, I wish you and Hayley could be friends again, but yeah, But he does say, look, I'm sorry I'm not a better man, but I love you very much. And that's when she leaves. And from there, Bill calls Hayley and reminds her of the upcoming ultrasound. So we shift gears to Naomi stopping by Ashley to complain about her dad, which is interesting because the thing is, Naomi came because Ashley left her that voicemail with her panicking. And Naomi came by to see what was up. But strangely enough, Ashley doesn't want to talk about what she left the voicemail for. And that's when she mentions the whole thing about, Bill and Hayley and what happened with the box and how she's having another ultrasound. But she sees the panic look on Ashley's face and she thinks back to that nurse who told her that Hayley didn't even have an ultrasound. She, declined having one. So, Now from there, we go over to the diner and Chenise is over there having lunch, gossiping on the phone about Leslie showing up to the concert and whatnot. And that's when Derek pops up and he asks if he can join her, but she's like, yeah, as a friend. Wait, what? So pretty much, she mentions how, when I was at that concert, yeah, I heard it was a hit. I wish I could have went. Yeah, I was listening to the songs and, and that just goes to show you when you listen to that old music with meaning. It's like, I was listening to the words about, how dangerous it is to play games with the heart. And, that's why we can't really do what we've been doing because, Ashley is a coworker and I don't want any sort of drama between us to interfere with the job. And I don't want to take the risk. So he mentions how dumb it was for him to even say that he wanted to make Ashley jealous. And then Shanice, lets him know, like, yeah, that's because I don't want to be crumbs. I want to be the whole meal. And I don't want to wallow in ashes. See what I did there? Yeah, okay. But hey, regardless, can we just forget about everything that led up to where we are right now? Because truth be told, I like spending time with you. And I hope that we can at least still be friends if you don't turn me away. And she likes his persistence and also likes the idea of having a flirty pal. So they will have dinner soon. And he does get a word of advice by Shanice saying that, hey, you need to fully get over Ashley before he unbuttons another, friend again. So did Derek and Shanice get a little frisky sometime off screen? And as soon as she walks out, Andre comes in, and that's when Derek steps to him and is like, wait, hey, man, I know things kind of awkward. Nope, not awkward, man. It's just, yeah, I see how smooth you are. It's like, wait, no. It's like, how smooth it was for you to make a move on my girl Ashley not even 2 seconds after we broke up. And then he walks out, and I'm like, oh, dang. So to round things out, we're at Uptown, and Danny is discussing Ashley with Pamela in terms of, an issue. Simply put, she feels like Andre and Ashley aren't a good fit. The fact that Andre is way more into, he's better suited for me than her. And it's funny because Pamela mentions like, wait, Ashley? Wait, do you have something for Derek? Oh, he wishes. That was really petty as I don't know what. And it's like, look, hey, I have all respect for firemen and whatnot, but no. The problem is, Ashley's like a simple-minded blanket who couldn't handle someone as chiseled and as sexy as Andre. It would be too much for her feeble mind to handle. And I have nothing against her whatsoever. But the thing is, Andre, I haven't broken in, and I don't like sharing. So that's when Pamela mentions, Danny's problem with pests before, and the fact that Bill married the last one. And Danny claps back saying, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm done with him anyway. And the fact that, okay, I do have some residual feelings, but he moved on with that charlatan gold digger whose name escapes me. The name is Hayley. And then she just pops up and it's like, oh. So that's when, Hayley just starts going in like, well, hey, you know what? I had to work hard to get to where I am now. And it's like, oh. And then Danny's like, oh, yeah, all you did was open those tree trunk legs. The clapbacks in this scene were hilarious. But then Hayley goes on to brag that, you know what? Hey, I just aroused Bill's youthful lust, and that he was mine the moment he laid eyes on me. And they keep going back and forth, and then Danny's face says it all. It's like, yeah, this baby, it makes Bill and I a family. And he's over a dried up hag like yourself. I mean, come on now, you can't even keep a job or a man. Damn. So that's when Danny steps up like, oh, you know what? Your baby thing is just a charade and you deserve a special place in hell. And that's when Hayley starts, groaning and grasping her stomach and then runs to the bathroom. And Pamela thinks it's real, but Danny's like, she's just being a drama queen. Don't fall for that bull crap. So that's when Pamela's like, are you sure? Because I bet you wouldn't forgive yourself if anything happened to that baby. So that's when Andre sends Danny a text message. And before she can even check it, that's when Hayley comes out of the bathroom bleeding and screaming that something happened to her baby, which is obviously an act. You can't fool me. So overall, strong episode. I think Danny's doing too much. Like, leave it be. Like, why are you going after Ashley? You literally told Andre in the last episode, like, look, if you decide to choose basic and simple, I'll be fine. But no, now you seemingly want to sabotage Ashley to have Andre all to yourself. So, man, oh man. So with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.